returned home for Christmas. The house was deserted, only Grandma sat there, eating scraps. A note read, "Used your $10,000 loan for a family cruise. Look after her." Grandma whispered, "We'll handle this." I simply nodded. For days later, they were on their knees, pleading. Can you even imagine driving 6 grueling hours home for Christmas, packed with thoughtful gifts, only to find your house completely dark, empty, and devoid of any holiday cheer? And then you spot it. A crumpled note on the fridge, casually declaring that your own family, had just blown your entire life savings, the $10,000 intended for your nursing school graduation, on a Caribbean cruise, without even asking you. My name is Rosalind, and what happened next was a battle for my future, against the very people who were supposed to protect it. I was 28 years old, just 3 months shy of graduating from nursing school, finally at the finish line of a dream I'd fought tooth and nail for. My car was packed to the brim with carefully wrapped gifts, my heart buzzing with the usual holiday anticipation. 6 hours on the road, and I was exhausted but ready for the comfort of home, for the familiar chaos and warmth of my family Christmas. But when I pulled into our driveway, it was eerily quiet. No twinkling lights, no festive wreath, just a dark, silent house. My stomach tightened. Inside, the silence continued until I heard Grandma Eleanor's voice from the kitchen. She was there, alone, sitting at the table, quietly eating microwaved turkey. And then I saw it, tacked to the fridge under a tacky souvenir magnet, a hastily scribbled note from my mother. "Rosie, sweetie," it began, with her signature flower doodles. "Last minute amazing deal on a Caribbean cruise. Couldn't pass it up. Used your loan money. Hope you don't mind. Consider it our family Christmas gift. Taking care of bills when we return. Grandma couldn't manage the trip with her mobility issues, so please take care of her. Back in 4 days. Love you bunches. Mom, Dad, Jake, and Liv, hugs and kisses." My blood ran cold. I read it twice, 3 times, certain I was hallucinating. The casual tone, the hearts over the eyes, as if borrowing $10,000 without permission was equivalent to snagging a sweater. My loan money? For a cruise? My legs felt weak, and I slumped against the refrigerator, the flimsy paper crumpling in my hand. Grandma just looked at me, her gaze steady, her face a mix of deep sadness and barely concealed fury. "We will fix this," she said calmly. All I could do was nod. You see, my family, Dad, Harold, a salesman with wildly fluctuating commissions, Mom, Diane, a part-time receptionist with a penchant for spending, my older brother Jacob, and younger sister Olivia, had a long history of financial irresponsibility. We lived in Springfield, Missouri, in a middle-class home that often felt anything but stable. When Grandpa died, Grandma Eleanor moved in, and she became the quiet anchor in our financially turbulent lives. While my parents rode emotional and financial roller coasters, Grandma was the rock. She taught me to budget, to save, to plan for rainy days, lessons my parents always seemed to conveniently forget. Our bond was special. On nights when Mom and Dad argued about money, I'd slip into her bedroom, and she'd tell me stories or help with homework. "You have a good head on your shoulders, Rosie," she'd say. "You are going to break this cycle." And I tried. After high school, I moved to Chicago for nursing school. I worked multiple jobs, waiting tables, campus library, weekend shifts at a retirement home. Every single penny counted. This $10,000 student loan was for my final semester, the last push for clinicals and certification exams. I had avoided debt for 4 years, but these final requirements were impossible to fund alone. This money was my finish line. It was my future. My family's financial mess had, unfortunately, a way of spilling over into my carefully managed life. Dad once borrowed my first car, a used Honda I'd saved for 2 years, and returned it with a damaged transmission he couldn't afford to fix. Mom had emergencies that required loans she rarely repaid. Jacob borrowed textbook money and paid me back 3 months late. Olivia used my credit card for concert tickets, lying it was for art supplies. Each time, I forgave them. They were family. Despite their flaws, I loved them. Grandma Eleanor would shake her head. Love does not mean being a doormat, Rosie, she'd remind me. But I always made excuses. Christmas, though, was sacred. Growing up, even in the leanest years, Mom and Dad made it magical. The house transformed, filled with the scent of sugar cookies, and for a few days, money worries seemed distant. As an adult, I maintained that love, saving all year for thoughtful gifts. This particular Christmas, I'd gone all out. An antique brooch for Mom, a rare first edition for Dad, high-end headphones for Jacob, a leather portfolio for Olivia. For Grandma, a cashmere sweater and a digital frame filled with our family photos. In the weeks leading up to the holiday, we'd had countless conversations. No one, not once, mentioned a cruise. We talked about cookie exchanges, sales quotas, and who would pick up Aunt Martha. Our traditions, I thought, were securely in place. I left Chicago at 5 a.m., a thermos of coffee, Christmas playlist blasting, excitement keeping me awake despite exam exhaustion. It had been 6 months since I'd seen everyone, and I craved the comfort of home. As I drove, watching the city lights fade into rural fields, I pictured it, Mom in the kitchen, Dad watching football, siblings bickering over the remote, Grandma knitting by the twinkling tree. Pine and cinnamon. That picture carried me through traffic and pit stops. But the moment I turned onto Maple Street, I knew something was wrong. The neighbors' lights blazed, but our house was dark. No illuminated reindeer, no wreath, no colorful lights. I checked my phone. December 23rd. Decorations should have been up for weeks. Fewer cars, too, just Dad's old Buick. A cold knot formed in my stomach. The front walk was covered in a light dusting of snow unshoveled. Dad was meticulous about shoveling. "Hello. I'm home." I called out, packages precariously balanced, stepping into an undecorated living room. No tree. No garland. No nativity scene. The air smelled stale, faintly of microwave food. In the kitchen, dear, Grandma's voice cut through the silence, the only familiar thing in this alien homecoming. I dropped my bags and found her, eating turkey. She was in her everyday house dress, not one of her festive outfits. "Grandma, where is everyone? What happened to the decorations?" I asked, the knot in my gut tightening. Her face, etched with 82 years of life, held an expression I couldn't read, a mix of deep shame and simmering anger. "Oh, Rosie, I'm so sorry you came home to this. They left yesterday." "Left? What do you mean? Where did they go?" She gestured with her fork toward the fridge. "See for yourself. The note. That damned note." I slumped against the refrigerator, the paper in my hand. But my loan money, that was for my final semester. My clinicals and certification. How could they just take it? "You mentioned the money was coming through last week when you called," Grandma said, her voice tight. "Diane asked if you were still using the joint account your parents set up when you first went to college." The realization hit me like a physical blow. The account, opened when I was 18 with them as co-signatories for emergencies. I'd never bothered to remove them, using it mainly for student loans and large expenses. My daily spending came from a separate account. "They can't just take it," I whispered, but even as the words left my mouth, I knew they could. And they had. My phone buzzed. A social media notification. With numb fingers, I opened it. There they were, all 4 of them, beaming on a cruise ship deck, wearing leis, holding tropical drinks. "Surprise Christmas vacation. So blessed," my mother's caption read, posted just 30 minutes ago. "They didn't even take you," I choked out to Grandma, the betrayal deepening as I looked at her frail form. "Doctors said my hip wouldn't handle the ship, and they didn't want to cancel their fun," she replied with a bitter, humorless smile. "Your father said they'd bring me a souvenir." I felt physically ill. A wave of nausea. My legs gave out, and I grabbed the counter to steady myself. "Rosie, sit down before you fall down," Grandma ordered, suddenly all business. I obeyed, automatically dropping into a kitchen chair. "They stole from me," I whispered, unable to fully process it. "My own family stole from me." "Yes, they did," Grandma agreed. No sugarcoating. To my surprise, she looked angry, not defensive of her son. "And we're going to deal with it." I barely heard her. My mind raced through the consequences. No money meant no clinicals. No clinicals, no graduation. No graduation, no nursing license. For years of brutal work, derailed by an impulsive vacation. I need to see if they really took it all, I said, pulling out my phone with shaking hands. A few taps confirmed my worst fears. The account was drained 3 days ago. $9,876 transferred to a travel agency. Every penny. I tried calling each family member. Voicemail. Text messages, delivered but unread. Meanwhile, more vacation photos popped up online. Each one a fresh stab of betrayal. Let's look around, Grandma suggested. See what else we can find out. In the home office, we discovered printed cruise brochures, Caribbean travel guides, discarded luggage tags. In my parents' closet, empty hangers where their summer clothes usually were. In the trash, used boarding passes for a flight to Miami. Each discovery was another confirmation. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was calculated. They planned this, I said, sinking onto my parents' bed. Maybe not long-term, but once they saw the cruise deal, they deliberately used my money. Grandma sat beside me, her small hand covering mine. Your father has always wanted what he wants when he wants it, she said softly. I failed him as a mother in that way. I should have taught him better. I shook my head, too numb to even cry yet. This is not your fault, Grandma. Perhaps not entirely, she conceded. But what matters now is what we do next. What we did next was call my nursing school's financial aid office and my academic advisor, only to get cheerful holiday voicemails. By then, reality had fully sunk in, and so had the first wave of desperate panic. I can't afford another loan, I said, pacing the kitchen while Grandma watched. I maxed out my eligibility. Without this money, I can't finish school. You will finish, Grandma said firmly. We will figure this out. But in that moment, surrounded by evidence of betrayal, my future in jeopardy, I couldn't see how. I carried my bags to my childhood bedroom, a time capsule of my younger, more trusting self, nursing pioneer posters, science textbooks, old scholarship offers. Sitting on the twin bed, I finally broke down. Great, heaving sobs, rising from the deepest part of me. I cried for the betrayal, for the careless way my future had been jeopardized, for the years of hard work now at risk, and for the devastating realization that the people who should protect me most had chosen to harm me for their temporary pleasure. A soft knock. Grandma Eleanor entered, carrying a steaming mug of chamomile tea, her universal remedy. She set it down, sat beside me, and placed a gnarled hand on my back, moving it in slow circles, just as she had when I was a child with nightmares. Let it out, Rosie, she murmured. You have earned these tears. When the storm passed, leaving me hiccuping and red-eyed, she handed me the tea and tissues. Now we talk, she said firmly. For 2 hours, we did. Not just about the cruise, but about the pattern it represented. This is not the first time, is it? Grandma asked, though it wasn't really a question. No, I admitted, recalling incident after incident. When I was 16, I saved $800 for a laptop. Dad borrowed it for an investment opportunity. Never saw that money again. And your college fund? Grandma prompted. I grimaced. Mom and Dad started one when I was born. By the time I was ready for college, there was less than $3,000. They'd withdrawn the rest for vacations, a kitchen remodel, and Jacob's car. That's why I worked so many jobs. Grandma nodded. And my first car. I bought it myself, but Dad used it whenever he wanted. He returned it with transmission problems that cost $2,000 to fix, more than I paid for the car. He promised to help, but never did. And your brother? I sighed. Jacob borrowed $500 for textbooks. Promised to pay me back in 2 weeks. 3 months later, he finally did, but by then I'd put my own books on a credit card and was paying interest. And Olivia? Used my credit card for concert tickets and lied about it, saying it was for art supplies. Grandma nodded thoughtfully. Do you see the pattern, Rosie? I did. With crystal clarity. They take advantage of me. They always have. And do you know something else? Grandma asked, rising to my bookshelf, returning with an old photo album. They do it to me too. As we flipped through pictures, Grandma revealed her own stories, how my father convinced her to sell her house and move in, promising a renovated den, only to use most of her home sale proceeds to pay off their credit card debt. How her Social Security checks sometimes mysteriously vanished from her purse. How her jewelry, including her wedding ring, had gradually gone missing over the years. "Why did you never say anything?" I asked, shocked. "Same reason as you, I expect," she said with a sad smile. Love, shame, hope that next time would be different. My phone buzzed again. More social media. Ziplining through a tropical forest, swimming with dolphins, enjoying a formal dinner at the captain's table. Each image, they beamed with carefree joy, seemingly without a thought for what they'd done. My messages to them remained unread. "I can't believe they're just ignoring me," I said, tossing the phone aside in disgust. "They know what they did was wrong," Grandma said firmly. "Easier to pretend everything is fine than face the consequences." I spent the rest of the evening in a daze, making calls that went to voicemail, sending emails that received auto-replies about holiday closures, calculating and recalculating my finances for a solution that didn't exist. I was nearly $5,000 short for my final semester, even after emptying my meager savings. Sleep was impossible. I lay awake, staring at the inaccurate constellations I'd arranged on my ceiling at age 12, my mind racing. Drop out? Take a semester off? Beg the school for emergency assistance? Every option seemed impossible or humiliating. Sometime after midnight, I heard Grandma on the phone in the hallway. Her voice was uncharacteristically sharp. "Harold James Wilson, you answer this phone right now. I know the ship has service." "No, I will not call back tomorrow. You put Diana on too. I want you both to hear this. What you have done to Rosalind is despicable, and there will be consequences when you return." Her voice dropped too low for me to hear the rest. Eventually, exhaustion claimed me, and I fell into troubled dreams, drowning in an ocean of student loan paperwork while my family sailed by on a luxury cruise ship, waving and laughing. Morning brought no relief. I woke to the stark realization: 15 days to come up with nearly $10,000, or my nursing degree and the stable future it promised would be delayed at best, lost at worst. With robotic movements, I showered and dressed, making my way downstairs, where activity in the kitchen indicated Grandma was already up. "You look like you've been hit by a truck," she observed bluntly. "Feel like it, too," I mumbled, reaching for the coffee pot. "Sit," she commanded. "I've been thinking." I obeyed, too drained to do otherwise. The emotional numbness of shock had settled over me, a strange calm after yesterday's storm. I felt hollow, disconnected from the bright, ambitious nursing student who'd driven home just 24 hours earlier. Grandma placed a plate of scrambled eggs and toast before me. "Eat while I talk," she instructed. "You will need your strength." I woke the next morning to the aroma of coffee and something sweet baking. For a blissful moment, I forgot everything, thinking perhaps it had all been a bad dream. Then reality crashed back, and the hollow feeling returned. Dragging myself out of bed, I found Grandma Eleanor already dressed in one of her nice pantsuits, her white hair neatly styled, makeup applied. She sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by notebooks, my laptop open in front of her. A plate of fresh cinnamon rolls cooled on the counter. "You're up," she noted, without looking away from the screen. "Coffee is fresh. Grab some and join me." I poured a mug, took a cinnamon roll, though I had little appetite. "You seem energized," I commented, taking in her unusual morning efficiency. "I am," she confirmed, finally looking up. Her eyes, behind her reading glasses, were clear and determined. "I was up at 5. Planning." "Planning what?" "Operation Consequence," she replied with grim satisfaction, turning the laptop toward me. To my surprise, she had created a detailed spreadsheet with multiple tabs. "I know this comes as a shock, but your grandmother is not entirely technologically inept. I've been taking classes at the community center for years." "I can see that," I said, impressed despite my exhaustion. "What is all this?" "This, my dear, is how we are going to fix the mess your family created." She pointed to the screen. "First tab is financial options. Second is legal considerations. Third is a timeline of action items. Fourth is a list of resources and contacts. I blinked at her efficiency. Grandma, I appreciate this, but I'm not sure there's a solution. I've called everyone, and with the holidays. There is always a solution, she interrupted firmly. It may not be easy or comfortable, but there is always a way forward. She proceeded to outline her strategy. First, she revealed she had a modest savings account, kept secret from my parents. Not a fortune, mind you, she clarified, but enough to temporarily cover your tuition needs if we cannot recover the money in time. Grandma, no. I protested immediately. That's your retirement money. I can't take that. You are not taking it, she corrected. I am lending it to you, with proper documentation, and your family will be repaying me every penny with interest. The steel in her voice made it clear this was non-negotiable. Besides, she continued, more gently, what good is saving for my future if I cannot help secure yours? You are the only one in this family who has shown real responsibility and ambition. My investment in you is the safest one I could make. Tears threatened again, but of a different kind. I don't know what to say. Say you will stop being a doormat, she replied bluntly. Love without limits creates monsters, Rosie. I learned that too late with your father. You have a chance to learn it now. Over the next hour, she shared her story in even more detail than ever before. How she'd enabled my father's poor financial habits from childhood, giving in to his demands, making excuses, cleaning up his messes. How my grandfather had warned her they were creating an entitled adult, but she hadn't listened. How she'd watched the pattern repeat with my siblings. Your mother is no better, she added. Diane has champagne tastes on a beer budget. Always has. They enable each other's worst tendencies. But what can we do now? I asked. Even if we secure my tuition, they still took my money. That brings us to phase 2, Grandma said, flipping to another tab. Practical consequences. Her plan was comprehensive. They had left numerous loose ends in their hasty departure, taken all house keys, but not changed the security code, left the refrigerator nearly empty, several bills unpaid, no arrangements for mail. They assumed you would handle everything, Grandma observed, as you always have. Operation Consequence addressed all of this. She had researched the legal implications of unauthorized use of student loan money. She had called the cruise line, pretending to be my mother, confirming their return arrangements. She had contacted her friend Terry, a retired attorney, for advice on drafting a repayment agreement. We need to be ready when they return, she explained. No emotional scenes, no accusations they can dismiss. Just calm, firm consequences with no wiggle room. The plan unfolded with military precision. First, a call to a locksmith to change all exterior locks. They took the keys, but left us behind, Grandma reasoned. Clearly, they forfeit entry privileges without our approval. Next, a careful inventory of valuable items. Not that I think they would sell family heirlooms, Grandma said, but better safe than sorry, given their current behavior. She had already begun documenting everything with photographs, the empty student loan account, the cruise social media posts, the note they'd left. Rosie, she said seriously as we reviewed her plans. The most important thing is that you are prepared to hold firm. They will cry, they will yell, they will try to make you feel guilty. They will say you are overreacting or that it was just a misunderstanding. They will promise to pay you back someday, when it's convenient for them. I nodded, knowing she was right. And you need to be ready to say no. To say that their behavior has consequences, and those consequences are immediate and non-negotiable. What if I can't? I whispered, voicing my deepest fear. What if I give in like I always do? Grandma took my hands, her paper-thin skin covering surprisingly strong fingers. You can and you will, because this time, you are not alone. I will be right beside you, and I have 82 years of practice at being stubborn. That made me smile, if only faintly. Besides, she added with a twinkle in her eye, I have. Backup. That backup, it turned out, was an impressive network of Eleanor's friends. Terry, the retired lawyer, was helping draft a legally binding repayment agreement. Martin, a retired locksmith, offered discounted services. Her bridge club friends volunteered to be present during the confrontation as witnesses and moral support. Elderly does not mean powerless, she informed me with dignity. With renewed purpose, I joined her. I called my school's financial aid emergency line, documenting the situation for when offices reopened. I secured our important documents in Grandma's bank. I helped move particularly valuable or sentimental items to Eleanor's sister's house nearby. By evening, we had changed the locks, secured the valuables, documented the financial theft with bank statements and screenshots, and begun drafting the repayment agreement. Now for the most difficult part, Grandma said as we sat down to a simple dinner. Emotional preparation. She was right. The practical tasks had been straightforward, but the thought of confronting my family, of standing firm against their manipulations and guilt trips, filled me with anxiety. They'll say I'm being selfish, I said, pushing food around my plate, that they deserve a vacation after working so hard, that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. And what will you say? Grandma prompted. I took a deep breath. That taking my money without permission was wrong. That actions have consequences. That I need the money back immediately or a signed agreement for repayment. And if they refuse? The question hung in the air. What would I do? The answer came more easily than I expected. Then I will file a police report for theft and contact the school to report fraudulent use of student loan funds. Grandma nodded approvingly. It will not come to that. They are irresponsible, not stupid, but they need to know you are serious. I am serious, I said, surprising myself with the firmness in my voice. This is my future. This is my life. I have worked too hard to let them take it away for a vacation. That's my girl, Grandma said with a proud smile. Now, let's practice what you will say when they try to make you feel guilty. We spent the evening role-playing. Grandma, displaying unexpected acting talent, took turns playing my father's blustering authority, my mother's tearful manipulations, and my siblings' varied approaches to deflecting responsibility. With each practice round, my responses grew more confident, my resolve stronger. By the time we went to bed that night, I felt prepared in a way I never had before. Remember, Grandma said as we parted, you are not just doing this for yourself. You are doing it for them, too. Real love means setting boundaries. Without consequences, they will never change. As I lay in bed, I reflected on how much had changed in just 2 days. I had arrived home excited for a family Christmas and discovered betrayal instead. But I had also discovered a strength in myself I hadn't known existed and an ally in Grandma Eleanor I had always taken for granted. Tomorrow would bring more preparations. The day after, my family would return, and nothing would ever be the same again. Day 1 of our plan dawned cold and clear. Grandma and I ate breakfast early, reviewing our timeline. The locksmith will be here at 9 o'clock, she reminded me. And Terry is coming at 11 o'clock to finalize the repayment agreement, I added, feeling a strange calm replace yesterday's anxiety. Having a concrete plan made everything seem more manageable. Martin, the locksmith, arrived promptly. Eleanor filled me in, he said. Terrible thing, family taking advantage like that. In just under 2 hours, he changed all the exterior locks and installed a new electronic keypad on the front door. Temporary code for now, he explained. After your family makes amends, you can decide who gets permanent access. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. For the first time, I would control who entered this space. After Martin left, Grandma and I carefully documented the house's condition with photos and video, the undecorated rooms, the nearly empty refrigerator, the unpaid bills. Terry arrived next, a distinguished woman with silver hair and a no-nonsense attitude. Eleanor explained the situation, she said, declining coffee. Let's get straight to business. The repayment agreement she drafted was comprehensive. Unauthorized withdrawal, repayment schedule with modest interest, consequences for missed payments, including possible legal action. This is just a starting point for negotiation, Terry explained. But begin from a position of strength. They took advantage of you, not the other way around. After Terry left, we focused on practical preparations. We went grocery shopping, stocked the fridge, collected mail, and paid urgent bills, meticulously recording these expenses to add to the repayment total. Add it to their tab, Grandma said grimly as we wrote a check for the overdue electric bill. By evening, we had secured the house, documented everything, and prepared the formal paperwork. I felt a growing confidence, like putting on armor piece by piece. "Good work today," Grandma said as we ate dinner. "Tomorrow we focus on contingency planning." Day 2 brought new challenges. My mother posted more cruise photos. Best family vacation ever. So grateful for this time together. The casual cruelty of excluding Grandma and me while using my money stung afresh. More worrying, my bank notified me of attempted credit card charges from the cruise ship gift shop. They'd been declined, but the attempt indicated my family was now trying to use my credit card. "Unbelievable," I said, showing Grandma. "They steal $10,000 and then try to charge more?" "Entitlement breeds entitlement," she replied, unsurprised. "Call the card company and report potential fraud." I did, explaining the situation to a sympathetic representative who placed a temporary freeze. The rest of the day was devoted to organizing our documentation and preparing for potential outcomes. Grandma's friend Beth, a retired social worker, came over to help us practice handling emotional confrontations. "They will try to push your buttons," she warned. "They know exactly which ones work because they installed them." We role-played more scenarios, Beth channeling my mother with frightening accuracy. "After all we've sacrificed for you," she wailed, "this is how you repay us?" "By changing the locks on our own home." Each time, I practiced responding calmly but firmly. "This isn't about past sacrifices. This is about the $10,000 taken from my account without permission. We can discuss access to the house after we resolve the financial issue." By evening, I felt emotionally stronger, though anxiety still churned beneath the surface. Checking the cruise tracking website, we confirmed the ship was on schedule to return to Miami the day after tomorrow. "Almost time," Grandma said, squeezing my hand. Day 3 focused on final preparations. What if they refused to sign? What if they made a scene? What if they simply walked away? For each scenario, we developed a response. Legal options were documented. A rental car was reserved. Support people were confirmed. "Remember," Grandma said, "we are not doing this to punish them. We are doing this to establish boundaries and consequences." I nodded. Though part of me did want to punish them for their casual betrayal, for the thoughtless way they'd risked my future for their pleasure, for leaving Grandma behind. That evening, a text finally arrived from my mother, having the most amazing time. "Flying home tomorrow. Slight emergency with your father's work. See you around dinner time. Can't wait to tell you all about it. Love you." No mention of my money. No acknowledgement. No apology. "And so it begins," Grandma said. "The pretense that everything is normal." I didn't reply. Day 4 dawned with a light snow falling, adding to the surreal quality of the situation. This should have been Christmas morning, family gathered around a tree. Instead, Grandma and I sat at the kitchen table, watching the clock. Their flight had landed. A text from my sister confirmed they were in a rideshare, heading home. Grandma's friends began arriving, Terry with her legal paperwork, Beth with her social work experience, Martin just in case, 3 Bridge Club members as additional witnesses. They gathered in the living room, a gray-haired army of support. "Thank you all for coming," I said, touched. "We take care of our own," Terry replied. "Eleanor has been there for each of us at some point." A notification from the home security system showed a car pulling into the driveway. Through the front window, I watched my family emerge, sunburned and laden with souvenirs, laughing. My heart pounded so hard I could feel it in my throat. Grandma came to stand beside me, her small hand finding mine. "Remember who you are," she said quietly. "Remember what you deserve." I nodded, squeezing her hand as the doorbell rang. It was time. The doorbell rang again, more insistently. I took a deep breath, exchanged a final glance with Grandma, and moved to the front window. Pulling back the curtain slightly, I saw them on the porch, my father already reaching for his keys. "Rosie," my mother called, spotting me. "We're home. Open up. It's freezing out here." I pressed the intercom button. "I can see that," I replied, my voice steadier than I expected. "Why are your keys working?" My father's face appeared at the window, confused, then angry. "What the hell? Did you change the locks?" "Yes," I confirmed simply. We need to talk before you come in. This is ridiculous, he sputtered, his face red beneath his fresh tan. It's 20 degrees out here, and we've been traveling all day. Let us in right now. We can talk through the doorbell camera, I said, nodding to Grandma who activated the device, or you can agree to a calm conversation about what happened with my student loan money. Their faces on the small screen showed a range of emotions. My father looked outraged, my mother confused, Jacob embarrassed, and Olivia increasingly concerned. What are you talking about? My mother asked, though her eyes darted away from the camera. We just need to get inside. We can discuss whatever is bothering you then. I am talking about the $10,000 you took from my account without permission, I said clearly. The money that was for my final semester of nursing school. The money you spent on a cruise without even asking me. A moment of silence. My father recovered first. Now listen here, he began, his sales pitch voice activated. We didn't steal anything. That was a family account, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, a last-minute cancellation. We deserved a vacation after everything we've been through this year. That doesn't explain why you didn't ask me first, I replied. Or why you left Grandma alone without proper care. Mom was fine, my mother interjected quickly. And we were going to pay you back, of course. We just needed to enjoy the holidays first. With my money, I added. Money I needed for school. My mother's expression turned pleading. Sweetie, you're making this into something it's not. We're family. We share things. Now, please let us in before we freeze. Grandma stepped up beside me. There will be conditions for entry, she announced firmly. My father's face darkened further. Mom, you're behind this. This is between us and Rosalind. You left me here too, Harold, Grandma reminded him. With no discussion, no proper arrangements, just a note telling Rosalind to take care of me as if I am a houseplant. We knew Rosie would be here, my mother said defensively. And the ship wasn't accessible for someone with your mobility issues. Convenient, Grandma replied dryly. My siblings had remained largely silent. But now, Jacob stepped forward. This is stupid. It's our house too. You can't keep us out. Actually, we can, I replied. And we will, until we have discussed the repayment of my money. Repayment, my mother echoed, as if the concept was entirely new. Honey, of course, we'll pay you back eventually. When things settle down. When? I pressed. How? With what money? Their uncomfortable shifting and avoided gazes told me everything. There was no plan. There never had been. Here is what is going to happen, I said, channeling Grandma's calm authority. We have prepared a repayment agreement. You will review and sign it. Then we can discuss entry to the house. This is insane, my father exploded. You can't treat your family like this. After everything we've done for you. Something inside me hardened at his words. What exactly have you done for me, Dad? Taken my college fund? Borrowed my car and returned it broken? Used my student loan for a vacation while I worked 3 jobs to put myself through school. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. By now, a few neighbors had noticed the commotion. Perhaps we should continue this conversation more privately, my mother suggested, her social embarrassment overriding everything else. I agree, I said. There's a coffee shop 3 blocks away. We can meet there in 15 minutes to discuss the agreement. In this weather? With all our luggage, my father protested. Your choice, I replied with a shrug. Public discussion on the porch with the neighbors watching, or private discussion at the coffee shop. They huddled together, whispering urgently. Finally, my mother turned back to the camera. Fine, the coffee shop. But only you, Rosalind, not your grandmother's friends. She had spotted Terry. Non-negotiable, I replied. Terry comes with me, as does Grandma. The others will wait here. More whispers, then reluctant agreement. They trudged back to their rideshare. 15 minutes later, we sat in the back corner of Magnolia Coffee, a small local shop decorated for Christmas. The contrast between the festive atmosphere and our tense faces couldn't have been starker. Terry placed a folder on the table. This is a legally binding repayment agreement, she explained in her crisp, professional voice. It outlines the unauthorized withdrawal of $9,876 from Rosalind's account and establishes a schedule for repayment. My father didn't even reach for it. This is ridiculous. We don't need lawyers and contracts. We're family. Family does not steal from family, Grandma replied simply. We didn't steal. My mother insisted, her voice rising enough that a barista glanced our way. She lowered it quickly. It was a misunderstanding. What part was misunderstood? I asked quietly. The part where you knew it was my student loan money? The part where you didn't ask permission? The part where you knew I needed it for school? No one answered directly. Look, Jacob finally said, what's done is done. The money is spent. We can't magically give it back right now. Which is why there is a repayment plan, Terry interjected, tapping the folder. Starting with an immediate payment of $1,000 from your return flight refunds. My head snapped up. What return flight refunds? A guilty look passed between my parents. We had to change our return flights, my mother admitted. The original ones were for December 27th, but your father had a work emergency. So, you have refunds coming, Grandma concluded. Which will go directly to Rosalind. More uncomfortable shifting. My father finally picked up the agreement and flipped through it, his frown deepening. These terms are ridiculous, he declared. There's no way we can pay back this much this quickly. Then Rosalind will have no choice but to pursue other options, Terry said calmly, including reporting the unauthorized use of student loan funds, which I understand can trigger investigations by both the school and the lending institution. My mother paled. You wouldn't do that to your own family. I didn't want to, I said honestly. I wanted to come home for Christmas, spend time with my family, and go back to school to finish my degree. You are the ones who changed the plan, not me. For the first time, Olivia spoke up. Mom, Dad, she's right. We took her money without asking. That was wrong. My sister's unexpected support created a shift in the atmosphere. My mother's defiance crumbled slightly. My father looked less certain. At minimum, Terry continued, the credit card charges attempted from the cruise ship gift shop need to be addressed. What credit card charges? My father asked sharply, looking at my mother. She had the grace to look embarrassed. I may have tried to use Rosa's card for a few souvenirs. I thought it would be fine. After taking $10,000, you tried to charge more? Grandma asked incredulously. The conversation continued for nearly an hour. My parents cycled through denial, anger, minimizing, and blame-shifting. Jacob largely supported them, while Olivia became increasingly uncomfortable, occasionally offering quiet support for my position. Outside, the light snow continued to fall. Inside, the ice between us slowly began to crack. What happens if we don't sign? My father finally asked, pushing the agreement away. Then you don't enter the house, I said simply. And I pursue legal options for recovering the money. You'd make your own family homeless at Christmas? My mother asked, tears finally appearing. You would steal your daughter's education money for a cruise, Grandma countered. The stalemate stretched on. Terry checked her watch pointedly. I have another appointment in 30 minutes, she said. So, a decision needs to be made. My father stared at me, perhaps seeing me clearly for the first time, not as his compliant daughter who would eventually give in, but as a woman standing her ground. We cannot pay it all back immediately, he finally said, his voice less combative. The agreement does not require that, I pointed out. It requires good faith, immediate payment of what you can, and a structured plan for the rest. After another tense silence, my mother reached for the agreement. We will sign, she said quietly. But I want it noted that we were always going to pay you back. This formal approach was unnecessary. I bit back a retort, recognizing the small victory. One by one, they signed the document. My father laughed, and with visible reluctance. Now, can we go home? Jacob asked sullenly. Yes, I said, gathering the signed papers. But things will be different. As we walked back through the snow-covered streets, I explained the new household rules. They would have temporary entry codes, not permanent ones. Financial responsibilities would be clearly documented and shared. Grandma's Social Security checks would be deposited directly to her personal account, not handled by my parents. This feels like punishment, my mother complained. This feels like consequences, I corrected her. There is a difference. When we reached the house, Grandma's friends had departed, except for Martin, who waited to explain the new security system. My family entered their changed home environment with subdued expressions, taking in the absence of Christmas decorations they had never put up, the practical groceries rather than holiday treats, the neatly organized bills awaiting payment. "Welcome home," I said, feeling the weight of change settle over us all. The first night was tense, to say the least. My parents retreated to their bedroom early, the weight of consequences visibly heavy. Jacob alternated between sullen silence and attempts to normalize the situation with flat jokes. Only Olivia made genuine efforts to repair the damage, helping me prepare a simple dinner and asking thoughtful questions about my final semester. Grandma Eleanor maintained her position as moral compass and mediator, firm, but not punitive. "This is not about making anyone suffer," she reminded me privately as we washed dishes. "It is about creating change." Over the next week, the patterns established during our confrontation continued to play out. My parents initially resisted the new financial accountability, complaining about the detailed expense tracking and shared bill payments I implemented. My father attempted to reassert control several times, making unilateral decisions, then acting surprised when I challenged them. "I am the head of this household," he declared during one heated discussion about the electricity bill. "And I am the one holding you accountable," I countered. "The agreement you signed requires financial transparency." Gradually, the resistance faded. The signed repayment agreement hung on the refrigerator as a constant reminder. The first payment, drawn from their flight refunds and supplemented by the sale of some cruise souvenirs, was transferred to my account and documented. Grandma's influence was crucial. As mother to my father and mother-in-law to my mother, she held a unique position of authority they couldn't easily dismiss. When my father tried to shame me for treating family like tenants, she was quick to redirect. "Harold James Wilson," she would say, using his full name. "This situation is of your creation, not Rosalind's. She is teaching you responsibility, something I clearly failed to do adequately." With Eleanor's temporary loan covering my immediate school expenses, I registered for my final clinical rotations on time. The relief of knowing my education would continue uninterrupted allowed me to focus on the longer-term healing our family needed. 2 weeks after their return, I went back to Chicago. The distance provided perspective for everyone. Weekly video calls included financial updates, with my parents reporting on their progress toward repayment. My father took on weekend consulting work. My mother reduced her shopping and started selling unused household items online. The most surprising development came from my siblings. Jacob, after initial resistance, seemed to undergo a transformation. During one video call, 3 weeks after I returned to school, he showed me his new budgeting app and shared that he'd taken on additional shifts. "I never realized how much you were carrying for all of us," he admitted awkwardly. "It wasn't fair." Olivia went even further, calling me privately to apologize. "I was part of it, too," she said. "Taking advantage of you, I mean. I just never saw it that way until now. Until I saw how hard you fought for yourself." These conversations weren't easy. Years of established patterns don't change overnight. There were setbacks, like when my mother borrowed from the repayment fund for a department store sale, or when my father questioned whether full repayment was really necessary. Each time, I held firm to the boundaries we had established, and each time, it became a little easier to do so. Grandma Eleanor, true to her word, moved part-time to Chicago after I graduated, renting a small apartment near my new job at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. Her presence helped me maintain my newfound strength and provided a buffer as my relationship with my parents slowly healed on more equal footing. The following Christmas was dramatically different. Instead of elaborate gift exchanges funded by credit card debt, we agreed on modest, thoughtful presents. My parents hosted a small dinner rather than an extravagant party. Most importantly, they had repaid nearly half of what they had taken, making consistent monthly payments, even when it required sacrifices. The lessons I learned from that terrible Christmas and its aftermath transformed me in ways I could never have anticipated. I discovered my own strength and worth. I learned that real love includes boundaries and accountability. I realized that allowing people to experience the consequences of their actions is sometimes the greatest gift you can give them. As a nurse, these lessons proved invaluable. I brought new empathy to patients struggling with difficult family dynamics. I recognized enabling behaviors and could gently guide people toward healthier boundaries. I understood, from personal experience, that healing often begins with painful truth. My relationship with my family will never be what it was before. The blind trust is gone, replaced by something more cautious, but ultimately more genuine. My parents still struggle with financial responsibility, but now they do so openly, asking for guidance rather than taking advantage. My siblings have become allies rather than competitors for resources. And Grandma Eleanor, at 84, continues to demonstrate that it is never too late to change family patterns. Her courage in standing with me and acknowledging her own role in creating my father's sense of entitlement remains one of the greatest acts of love I have ever witnessed. Sometimes the most valuable Christmas gift is not found under a tree or on a cruise ship. Sometimes it comes in the form of difficult conversations, painful growth, and the courage to say no more to those we love most. That terrible note on the refrigerator led to the most important journey of my life. Not across the Caribbean, but across the much more challenging terrain of self-worth and family healing. Have you ever had to stand up to family members who took advantage of you? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.